From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
First and goal from the 5. Breeze under center, I formation. Fakes the handoff, looks to throw, wide open, touchdown! Josh Hill! 19 years, 273 games, over 76,000 yards, and now 540 touchdowns. Drew Brees, take a bow.
What a night inside the Dome last night. Welcome into the Black and Gold Review Show. Former Saints running back Deuce McAllister. That's our favorite running back, Sean Fazan. Tailback, scat back. That 40-year-old quarterback is still pretty good, though, isn't he?
Almost makes you want to shed a tear.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's just special just to see it. And, you know, he was magnificent last night. He was on point. He was distributing the ball. He got it to 9 different receivers. You know, that's vintage Drew Brees.
Forever young, man. I mean, just keeps defying age with each passing game and playing his best football at the perfect time.
Yep, he was ridiculous last night. Let's get you right to the headlines. Headline number 1, Brees at his best. Can't remember the last time Drew Brees was this efficient. 29 of 30, 307 passing yards, 4 touchdown throws. Broke Peyton Manning's passing touchdowns record. At one time, he connected on 21 straight throws. All those fans questioning Brees' ability. Go sit down. Go sit down, because he showed he's at his best still.
Well, the one question, you know, you hear throughout the year is his arm strength, his arm strength. Well, he was hitting routes, you know, running the seam routes. He was hitting throws, the corner route, the sail route. I mean, he was distributing the ball all over the field, and, you know, it was amazing to see him be able to distribute the football. And then when you talk about scoring touchdowns, I mean, you talk about your two wide receivers, you talk about 2 tight ends, and it was, hey, look, if you're open, I'm getting you the football.
I'm just going to say it. I know this is going to sound like hyperbole and maybe a prisoner of the moment. That was Drew Brees' best game ever as a Saint last night. That to me,
that's saying something.
He was, I mean, think about how many incredible moments we've seen from Drew Brees. 29 of 30, every single pass was perfect, right on point, with the exception of the one throwaway at the Latavius Murray, which got a negative mark from his head coach after the game they laughed about. But I'm just going to say it. I think that was the best game Drew Brees has ever played in the Saints uniform.
The Colts head coach said afterwards, when he's playing like that, there's nothing we can do. And it really is that simple, isn't it? When Drew is playing at that level where he is so dialed in with every receiver he's throwing the ball to, there's nothing you can really do. Just hold on.
The coach tried zone. They tried to bring pressure. They brought slot pressure. They brought it up the middle. The Saints offensive line did a really nice job of picking it up. But when they brought an extra guy and Drew had to manipulate the pocket and move around, he did so. And he still knew where he wanted to go with the football as far as, where's my out? This is my out. Let me get the ball to my playmaker. And, you know, I agree with Coach Frank Wright. Hey, look, there was nothing we could do, you know, as far as coverage. They had decent coverage at times, and he still was able to thread the needle and get the reception.
Yeah, bullseye-like accuracy last night. Plus, for the Colts, the only thing they really could have done is try to score with them. And we'll get to defense a little bit later, and they just weren't doing that with Jacoby Brissett and the Colts offense. So, yeah, tough to beat the Saints when Brees is that good, those circumstances, Monday night. And let's not forget, they were mad. They were mad after the San Francisco loss as well. So, tough circumstances for the Colts.
As good as Brees was last night, it was only his 15th best QB rating. Why was it not a perfect rating?
How is that possible?
I don't understand.
I have no idea.
Deuce?
I don't know the formula. I'm not responsible for the formula, but apparently he needed to throw for 370-something yards to have a perfect rating because there was one throwaway pass.
All right, let's get to headline number 2. We'll talk about that all day long. Still can't guard Mike. 12 targets, 12 receptions, 128 yards, receiving a touchdown. It was a record 8th time this season that Thomas has had at least 10 catches in a game. Whenever the Saints needed a big catch, he was there to provide it. Now has 133 catches on the year, 11 off of breaking Marvin Harrison's record of 143. When will teams learn to guard Mike differently?
Well, I want to know, Mike just got paid. Does he go back to Mickey and tell, hey, look, you know,
I told you.
Yeah, I told you, but we need to maybe adjust this contract. You know, I've outplayed this contract already after 1 year. You know, the only thing I think left for defenses is to literally bracket coverage where they put a guy that is bumping coverage and his only job is to stop, you know, anything under 5 yards, and that safety's job is to play over the top, because any other thing that defenses are doing, he is beating.
I'll take it one step further. I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. guard him like a gunner in punt coverage where you got 2 guys on him at the line of scrimmage and try to bump him off his route. At this point, I'm not sure what else you do. They have safety over the top. They try to zone him sometimes. Good luck one-on-one man-to-man. Ain't going to happen. So, guys open, 12 targets, 12 catches, 128, a touchdown. I mean, look, we've talked about it all year. The guy's been phenomenal.
So he has 133 right now as far as receptions, 11, and he breaks the record of Marvin Harrison. Sean, does he get it in this next game against the Titans? And he's getting 10 in a game 8 times this year.
I heard the 2-minute drill. I'm going to disagree with my colleague. I'm going to say yes, he gets it, because double-digit catches have been pretty regular for him. So I'm going to say yes, he gets it this week.
Deuce, why does he not get it in your mind?
I think they finally say, hey, look, we're going to guard this guy. We are going to try to bracket this guy. And if you know Drew and you're around Drew, he's not going to force it.
Right.
And so if he has a one-on-one matchup, I think he will distribute the football to those other guys. And Sean has ways to be able to even get Mike off of press coverage if that's how they choose to use him. And that's what's so unique with Michael Thomas. He can play in the slot. He can be a guy that's in motion, and most elite receivers that are about maybe all about the catches, they have to be in one specific place in an offense, and Mike does not have to be in that specific spot.
Maybe one thing that's helping him is that Jared Cook is starting to heat up even more and more, and so teams can't really shadow Michael as much as they'd like to because Cook comes across and he's catching balls as well.
Well, it's not just Jared Cook, but I think it's Alvin Kamara as well. I mean, you have to pay attention to him.
I felt like Indy really focused their attention on him a lot last night. Like, had one guy spying him and was always trying to keep him bottled up more so than worrying about Michael Thomas.
Well, I think so. I mean, teams are going to play Alvin like that anyway. I mean, because they don't want him to be the guy that beats him just because we're going to send so much focus on Michael Thomas. And so whether you're talking about my linebacker and or my slot corner coming down and having to play him, that's just going to make the matchups easier for the other guys.
All right, headline number 3, defense bounces back. The defense wasn't dominant, but they were effective, and the only touchdown they gave up was garbage time in the fourth quarter. Game was in the books. They were missing Von Bell, Patrick Robinson, Sheldon Rankins, Marcus Davenport, and yet this team's depth showed up, and they did not miss a beat. That is a sign of a good football team.
Yeah, they bounced back. Look, every good defense is going to have their worst effort of the season. That effort was last week against San Francisco. We know they're better than what they showed. I thought Kyle Shanahan got the best of Dennis Allen. Well, Dennis Allen certainly got the best of Frank Reich this week, and he's been really gotten the best of a lot of offensive coordinators this year. The talent, the depth. Demario Davis was great. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was great. This defense had a bad taste in their mouths from a week ago. We know that they're not as bad as they showed, and they kind of took it out on Indianapolis last night.
The only thing that you can probably fuss about is say, hey, look, we didn't have enough turnovers, we didn't have enough sacks. But I think that's because you played an outstanding offensive line. You know, if you're not playing an elite group like that, then the Saints, those numbers that they put up, and look, they only had 205 yards total offense, so it wasn't like they were terrible, but it would have been worse than what it was if that offensive line was not as good as it is for Indianapolis. And I think, you know, for them, put 2 or 3 games like this back to back to back, and then I think that you can say, hey, look, we know that was a game that was not like our normal play against San Francisco, and this is the proof by doing it back to back to back weeks.
But again, it's all about stacking up those kind of performances. You mentioned Demario Davis, Sean Vazan. Let's talk about Demario Davis as our 4th headline. Leads the hunt. Fantastic game by him, staying with him. Davis was the best player on the defense last night. Many times he was matched up one-on-one with Colts tight end Jack Doyle, and most times he won that matchup all over the field. The Saints appreciate what he does, but does the rest of the NFL give Demario Davis credit where it's due?
He's in the conversation, the most underrated player in the entire NFL, and that's just the truth. He has been arguably... You have Drew Brees in a class of his own with free agent pickups, but, I mean, if you're talking about the next biggest free agent pickup, he's up there in that conversation in terms of free agents that the Saints have signed in the Sean Payton era. You know, if you really watch the tight end for the Colts, that's really Brissett's security blanket, and he took that away. Yeah. And when he didn't have it, Brissett kind of freaked out a little bit. He was inaccurate, didn't really know what to go with the football. So Demario Davis was phenomenal last night.
We call these type of guys just a football player. Yeah. I mean, because he can play the Mike, he can play the Will, he can play the Sam. And his ability to play multiple positions, but also to be able to cover those tight ends and cover those running backs. And what's interesting, he is blitzed a lot in that 3rd down package. They run like a dime package, and it's 3 down linemen. Demario is one of the stand-up linebackers. You know, on that first 3rd down play, he and Cam run a twist or a stunt. Now, Brissett is able to pick up that 1st down, but, I mean, takes out the right tackle, and it allows Cam pretty much a free shot at the quarterback. So it's always interesting to see how they're using him, whether it's in coverage and or whether he is a blitzer. But he's been outstanding for this team.
Great open field tackle right there. We mentioned last week about how much this team missed A.J. Klein and Kiko Alonso. You saw the difference in this defense from a perspective of Demario Davis with Klein back on the field. How much did Klein's return help Davis?
Well, I think it helped him because it freed up some of the responsibility that he was responsible for. You know, maybe not necessarily as far as the calls are concerned, because Craig Robinson was still in making some of those calls. But I think, you know, as far as his responsibility, it freed him up. What was interesting, though, they did have some communication breakdown. There were a couple third down calls where, you know, there was motion and they let a guy go. And so that may be the product of maybe missing Von Bell and having a new guy in some different positions. But that's something that they have to continue to work on, because you don't want that to be the thing that hurts you, just letting the guy run free.
Okay, headline number 5, flawless home finale. Saints scored points on their first 6 possessions, 35 on the board before the Colts would respond. Drew Brees nearly perfect. Offense was balanced. Defense was up to the task of holding the Colts offense down. Drew Brees said they want to be ascending towards the playoffs. That's exactly what we saw last night.
I think this team is playing their best football, especially offensively right now. Their last 2 weeks, 80 points, 46 last week, 34. And just contrast that from last year at this time, where it felt like, boom, they hit a wall offensively and they just never could recover. Was able to manage their way through the playoffs, and obviously we know what happened in the NFC Championship game. But right now, they are playing as well as they played early in the season last year. And what would you rather have? Early season exploits or late season exploits? And I think right now they're playing the best football they're playing offensively that they've had all season.
They had plenty of motivation last night. Obviously, the final regular season home game, but the Super Bowl winning team, you know, on the field. How much does that play into it, Deuce? You don't want to let the guys that you're trying to be like them 10 years later, you don't want to let them down.
That didn't play any into
Not at all? Not at all? No?
No, I mean,
but it's obviously encouraging.
It helps set the mood.
It sets the mood or the moment.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, but I mean, they know they have to go out there and play. And the one thing that you don't want is more of a sense, all right, we can't let them down. But
that's what I just said.
You can't let them down, but it's not in the sense, man, that guy's number 72. I'm number 72 now, so it's not like they were thinking in that sense. But I don't want to let them down. But at the same time, the Super Bowl guys, they didn't have a play. They were just out on the field.
Yeah. Still lifted the spirits. Still lifted the spirits. All right, up next, how did the Saints get Michael Thomas wide open in the end zone? Sean Van breaks down the film. Plus, Drew Brees had a record performance last night, but so too did Michael Thomas. We'll answer your questions about the history he has accomplished and what lies ahead with 2 games left. And be sure to subscribe to the Fox 8 Overtime podcast for more Saints analysis on demand. You can find our podcast on fox8live.com, the Final Play app, and wherever you listen and download your podcast.
You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
All right, welcome back in. Time to take a trip into the film room with Sean Van.
All right, so many incredible plays from Drew Brees last night. It was hard to pick one, but I decided on his first touchdown pass of the game to Michael Thomas. It had a little bit of everything: pre-snap reading, post-snap recognition, and nearly flawless execution. Here is my latest film study.
Fazan's Film Study, sponsored by Rejuvenate Medical.
The Saints are in 12 personnel of 2 tight ends, 1 back, and 2 receivers, but the alignment is key. The Saints split Josh Hill and Jared Cook out wide. And look who's matched up across from them. 2 cornerbacks, Pierre Desir over Hill and Rock Ya-Sin over Cook. This indicates to Drew Brees that the Colts are in zone coverage. Had it been a linebacker or a safety over the tight ends, it could have been man. The pre-snap alignment shows a 2-deep look for the Colts. The play is an all-go special where Cook, Michael Thomas, and Hill will run go routes, while Traquan Smith will run a dig route. Post-snap, the Colts rotate to a cover 3 with the 2 corners and safety Malik Hooker covering a third of the field. Based on the route concept and the defensive alignment, Brees knows Thomas will be open. He just has to move Hooker off his spot. He does this by eyeing Smith on the in-breaking route. Hooker takes the bait. Once he takes a step towards Smith, Breeze throws it to Thomas for the easy touchdown.
We've seen that play so many times, but it's not as easy as Breeze makes it look. He moves the safety with his eyes, throws the dart. Michael Thomas runs a great route. It's just perfect execution, perfect offensive execution for the Saints.
It's the coasting play.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
That's the coasting play that they've run so often. And, you know, normally it's going to be a back shoulder throw right there to the back of the helmet. And Drew, it is a back shoulder throw. And the reason you do it is to take it away from that safety so he can't get involved. And, you know, you'll get the guy to fall off like they did. But, I mean, outstanding execution.
I like to be in Drew's head when he's going through all the reads. There's so much going on there. All right, time to get to some questions. That's what this show is all about. Submitting on the Final Play app using the Final Word feature. Question is, how long before Mike Thomas breaks the single-season catch record? That coming from Pam on the West Bank. Oh, we're putting the West Bank first in the show tonight,
West Bank first, West Bank. Miss Pam.
How long?
We answered that last break, at least I did. I'm going to say he gets it this week in Nashville against the Tennessee Titans. 11 catches, one?
Yes, 11 to break the record.
11 catches. I think he gets it.
I think it's Carolina game, and not because I don't think Mike has a great game. I do think he has a great game, but I think he ends up with about 7 or 8 catches, and so it's the Carolina game when he does break the record.
A couple of historic notes from Mike Thomas. Again, 133 catches this season. That's a franchise record. 8 games this season with 10-plus catches. That's also an NFL record. On pace for 1,774 receiving yards. That would be the 6th most receiving yards in NFL history. Of those 3 things, what's the most impressive to you?
The catches.
Yeah, I would say
133 franchise record, and obviously in the NFL, you know, he's just been outstanding. He's been consistent. That's what you get.
Consistent, productive, and like we've talked about week after week, defenses. He's number one on every defense. Is you know, people who to stop is Michael Thomas, and yet every week he gets open. So to me, it's the catches.
Okay, coming up, fans are clamoring for Janoris Jenkins the moment he became available. We'll examine the impact he can realistically have on the Saints with just 2 games left. And later, we will look ahead to the first of those 2 remaining games, a trip to Tennessee to face a Titans team that's fighting tooth and nail to get a shot at the postseason. Stay with us.
You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
All right, welcome back in. The Saints added a piece to its roster today that could prove a good get down the line. They've added veteran cornerback Janoris Jenkins, claiming him off waivers yesterday. He's been in the league the past 8 seasons and come up with 22 interceptions. Jenkins feels the need for the Saints, but could he become a starter down the line here, as in going into the playoffs?
I think they could always use him as a starter. You know, I don't know if they use him as a starter that fast, though. I think he's obviously a guy that has played in the NFL. And the thing about him is he is a man-to-man corner. He's not a guy that likes to play in zone. He likes to be in press coverage. He likes to be playing off as far as coverage is concerned. But, I mean, his ball skills are really, really good. When you talk about Jenkins and how he came available, it was really off the field, you know, and something that he chose to do as far as Twitter is concerned. But, you know, I think it's a good pick up, a good claim for them. And also what it does is you're only paying prorated as far as his contract is concerned, and you do have him under contract if you want him next year also.
$11 million next year.
It adds depth to the secondary. They've had their issues up and down. But last night they were fine, but they've certainly had their issues against some better offenses. But it adds depth if one guy's struggling or if somebody gets injured. I mean, everybody's wounded right now, and we've seen week to week some of these injuries have been piling up for the Saints. So it adds a quality football player in their secondary. At the very least, that's worth it for what they're paying him and what they at this point in the season to get him. At best case scenario, he takes over one of these roles and it becomes an upgrade at the cornerback position.
Real quickly, Deuce, a guy that's had a little bit of trouble off the field, do they usually clean themselves up when they know they're going to a team that's a Super Bowl contender?
I know I'm going to the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, that makes a difference, doesn't it? That makes a difference. And so, you know, his attitude is going to be a little different. And he wants to prove that he wants to hang around, not just for these next 2 games and that playoff run, you know, maybe farther than that.
Okay, all right, coming up, the Saints must keep winning to keep their hopes of a first-round bye alive. We'll preview a Titans team that was red hot entering their matchup against Houston on Sunday.
You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years of truck leadership.
All right, down the stretch, the objective is a simple one for the Saints: just win, baby. And they pray they get some help, specifically from the Vikings against the Packers and from the Seahawks in Week 17 against the Niners. That's the simplest way the Saints can wrap up home field advantage throughout the postseason. Up next for the Black and Gold, a tough trip to Nashville to battle the Titans. They still have something to play for, at least right now they do, so really no time for a letdown at all.
Can't let down. I mean, you want to be able to put, continuous games, good games on film, and so I think that's probably one of the most important things. I know Sean talked about it earlier, but what kind of depth do we have? We've had guys to be able to step in just because you do have guys that are banged up. Can they be healthy? That'll be the biggest question.
Stop Derrick Henry. Stop Derrick Henry, their running back for the Tennessee Titans. I think that's where it all starts. Ryan Tannehill has obviously played better up until Sunday, but I think that's where it all starts with the Titans offense.
Okay, all right, we'll leave it right there. We're going to go in depth on this matchup tomorrow night on Game Plan at 10:35. But until then, for Deuce and Sean and all of us here at Fox 8, thanks for watching. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
This has been the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the Ford F-Series, celebrating 42 years.